D stands for, don't you?
Enlighten me.
Piled higher and deeper.
Good morning. It's Monday, July 16th. It's 9 a.m. I'd like to call the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. And first is review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Receive comments from the public. Anyone like to step forward and address the board? Seeing no one move forward. Oh,
Bill?
Bill?
Yeah, Bill Brockert, I live in Fruitland. I'm here to look at an idea. We want to put up a new sign for our island cemetery, given directions. I guess at one time there was one there before they put the new road in, and we just can't seem to locate where that sign went to. We took it out, we didn't, and whatever. So we're looking at putting another one up. And this sign will be state regulated. We got 2x2 breakaway posts we're going to put in the ground, and the sign is actually 2 foot high and 4 foot wide, and it says Island Cemetery with an arrow on it. The location of that would like to be right straight across on the south side of the Fruitland Blacktop Road, and it'd be right straight across from the lane that goes back into the cemetery. And what I'm looking at is see if we could do that, and what measurements from the edge of the road the sign have to be at.
Okay. Okay. As I can remember that there being a cemetery sign there previously. Remember that. Okay. Any
Takes care of that.
So that's a sign, that'd be a sign in the right of way, basically. So
Sure.
that's probably a county engineering zoning question as to what you can do, what you can't do. Keith, you off the top of your head, you probably, ideas, thoughts, don't know?
Not off the top of my head, we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be to look at with the county engineer and Eric at zoning as to what requirements there are to do that. Makes sense.
Yeah, maybe we can get that worked through, because of,
Give Pete my phone number, and he can contact me on this information to get back with him.
I'd probably start at the engineer's office, yes.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Bill.
Appreciate
Thank you.
And you have the posts, and you have the equipment to install them, and you have all the signs,
We
and,
would put it in.
yeah.
You just need the permission to
Right.
install. Very good. Okay, thanks, Bill. Next is discussion and possible action to approve claims dated July 16, 2018 in the amount of $482,962.99.
Second.
I've got a motion by Nathan, a second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, update from Information Services with Information Services Director William Rowley. Morning, Bill.
Good morning. First thing I'd like to do is go through the help desk reports. I haven't been here since the first part of April, I believe, so I brought up April, May, and June reports. They're all relatively, as far as the number of incidents opened, roughly the same. There was nothing that really stood out as far as a department with their issues. In April, there were roughly 9 tickets, I think, merged. I'm sorry, April there was 6 tickets merged together. But that doesn't take off the total number of tickets that were opened. So, the jail, they're still having some problems with their shield, occasionally their SOR system, and we've had to restart their services for their time clock system, or have users restart their PCs to have the time clock system work on their PCs. Community services for that month just had various requests. Sheriff's Office, we're continuing to work with them and the state on issues with their tracks and their mock program, which is what they use in their cars for, I think, incident reporting, monitoring where they're actually at within the county. That would be it for April. Do you have any questions about any of these? Do you want me to go through them month by month?
Well, on the response times on April's,
And
you
I
had the one that
right.
stuck out.
Yeah, that one does stick out, and more than likely, I had Chrissy reviewing that this morning, but I wanted to make sure I had this printed out in time. More than likely, it's either one or two things, that we entered the ticket after the incident, so we entered the ticket date, but then when she was adjusting, or entering the information or the notes for the ticket, she didn't go and correct the date for that, or it was a response to a ticket, but she didn't update until a few days later. So,
Okay.
because we do have the ability to do a date override, so that we can usually go back and adjust that, so it does reflect when we contacted them for the initial response or anything after that. May and June, again, we had several tickets that were merged together. The jail, largest number of users, do have a higher number of incidents. Both those months, we had an issue with the paper vision system that affected multiple offices, so we had several tickets that were merged together for that. The maintenance plan wasn't running as set up, so it was basically consuming all the space on the server. We had an ongoing issue at the jail with a print or an Excel file that isn't printing correctly. We're trying to resolve that. We've replaced their system. We have them testing a different printer this week to see if that helps. Other than that, I think they're going to have to recreate their Excel file. Continued issues with the mock and tracks in both May and June. Other than that, there was nothing that really stuck out once I was running through the tickets. We've had to replace a few of the MDTs, wireless hotspots, or Verizon hotspots, jetpacks, whatever you want to call them. But that we work with emergency management on, or dispatch.
Bill, are you still doing like phishing tests and stuff like
Yes.
that? And how are we doing on that? Better?
We're better than initially, yes. Some months I've seen it as low as, 1.7. We just had one that ended last Friday or Saturday, and that I believe was at a 4.7. I haven't had time to go through and look at that this morning to see if we have some, repeat offenders, so to speak. But we have that set up that they move into a different group. They get a notification that they go out and they do some training. It's recommended. We don't have any way to really enforce that at this point. Maybe 50% of them do go and look at that training. It's just a 15-minute video that they can watch. So,
Okay, good.
but we are doing much better than the initial, I think, what was it, 30-some%?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they now have a metric on their website. We are at or below like enterprise standards for somebody that's been doing this for the past couple of years. So we are doing that. And we vary that from month to month as to when it kicks off, for the duration, so forth and so on. And then we try to keep that list updated. We haven't synchronized that with our Active Directory domain. For obvious reasons, I'm not keen on doing those things, so.
Okay, good.
I've been working with the auditor's office to help them get going on their laptop encryption. Leslie did handle most of that once we did the initial configuration, walked her through how to do the steps. On June 22nd, I attended an election cybersecurity conference in Cedar Rapids with Leslie. We are now working with them. In the past, they have handled all their laptops on their own. Moving forward, we will be working with them to update or possibly re-imaging their systems each time that there's a new election. So we've had network drops put into their election room that's across the hall from their office. And so we're going to be working with them moving forward.
But the laptops, the election laptops, those are not on the internet, correct? They're a standalone device?
Up to this point, they never have been. But going forward, they will have to touch the internet. We will set that up as a private network so it does not touch our network or any of our other networks. But it will go out, they'll have to go out to the internet at least one of them to get their updates. And then we can potentially image that to every other PC, or all of them will have to be updated before each election. If I understand, that's kind of the regulations moving forward. Possibly Betty can add to that.
So they're gonna deploy their software via the internet.
No, this is actually to make sure that they have all the latest, say, Windows updates.
Oh, okay.
Anything that could be a potential vulnerability at the actual laptops themselves.
Okay.
They're not directly connected to the internet other than for the updating purpose.
Okay.
So they shouldn't be, you know, connected to the internet when they're at the polling places or anywhere else. Just the times that they update Windows or any other programs that would not be part of the Precinct Atlas program.
Leslie has the laptop set so it won't reach out to Wi-Fi or anything like that. So the precinct officials have all been instructed that they can't go onto the internet at the polling places. So that's something that she's very careful with.
So we'll be playing a more active role with them and their laptops on the upcoming refreshes. They'll be having to move to Windows 10 before the 2020 deadline. So we will be working on that with them as well. As far as projects that we have going on, we still have the ongoing Encode 10 financial migration conversion, or the conversion's done, but the migration, we are live on it. We are continuing to have several issues with that. I am trying to work with Tyler Technologies to get them to do something, verify our setups, provide additional training, anything that we can do to help our users, because so far it's my understanding that it's been kind of a frustrating process. And I'm not going to point fingers at anyone. I think that we need some more assistance from Tyler on this. So
We have a maintenance contract with them, correct?
we do.
And did we have a project manager for this project? And they
That would
had,
be me on our side, and they
What's
had,
that?
that would be me on this side.
and did they have a?
They had a project manager on their side that oversaw both tax and financial. They had somebody under them for the tax, but on the financial side, it was the project manager. We've had problems with them. I have let our contacts at Tyler that I have know about these issues, but so far there has been no movement on their side to rectify anything.
Have they closed the project out, or were
No,
they?
no, the project is active for several more months, as far as we still have ongoing trainings, I believe through November.
Okay.
So we're just not at a situation right now where we could withhold a payment. That usually gets their attention much faster.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanted to keep you up to speed on that, so that if you do hear people, offices that are unhappy with it, you're well aware of it, and that we are working to resolve it.
Well, is that something we should consider, having the board send a note to Tyler, telling him that we're reaching out for assistance, we don't find them very,
I don't know if we're at
Responsive?
that spot or not. I don't know that it would hurt necessarily.
sounds like we need to get their attention. If we can do,
And I do want to say the tax piece of it apparently went beautifully.
Right, no, the tax went extremely well. It's just the financial portion that we're having problems.
With it, we seem to be having some difficulty with their people not communicating with each other and then not communicating well with our people.
Right.
So, I mean, it's in and it's working,
Right.
but,
It's not an improvement, let's put it that way. We've ran into situations where we have one trainer telling them one thing, or support telling them one thing, and then we get another trainer that tells them something different, or support telling them something different, or support finding out that they didn't even know that this was a feature that was available or a process that was available and the system was capable of doing it. So they have a lot of problems on their side, and I think that they're probably dealing with them as well, but
Sounds like a
but it's a
discount to me.
sophisticated system and they don't have all the bugs worked out yet.
Yeah, we're paying the price, so.
yeah, we are.
Yeah, it
and-
sounds like a discount.
Well, and I'm trying to get their attention. I'm trying to get them to respond and work with us on this, but so far, just not having a lot of luck.
we're not the first
No, we're not.
on this release, right? I mean,
No, but I believe we may be one of the earlier ones to go live with financial.
financial.
Right.
Because I was thinking this had been out for quite some time.
And other counties seem to have had similar difficulties, but what we're hearing is, once they get it all the bugs worked out, because there's some things that are specific county to county that, the implementation consultant was here, I don't think paid enough attention to, but we do some things that are a little more detailed than other counties do. But what I'm hearing is, once that's all worked out, people are really happy with the product. Which is still really some of us.
Right.
And we're, you know, we're able to do payroll, we're able to pay bills, so it's little things.
So their issues hasn't created any issues for us that have been a higher degree of difficulty than maybe they think it should be. You know, if you're
I
gonna,
wouldn't
if,
say that.
well, if we're gonna like complain a little bit, we ought to do it in writing so that we have something to fall back on. I think Jeff's got a good idea. I like to have it that way, and then we can say, oh yeah, you were advised, 3 months ago that this issue existed, you've been dragging your feet. The Board of Supervisors isn't very happy about it. Maybe there needs to be some type of restitution and this whole thing's done, a discount on the bill or something.
I brought that up in a number of our status meetings, that we didn't get the discounted package, so our expectation is that this is done right.
And we weren't on the bleeding edge. They've done this and it's out there. It should be stable code. There's no reason we're going through these issues.
Right.
Right, and those were some of the reasons why we
Chose the
finally-
path we chose.
Right, we didn't choose early adoption. We waited a few years until they supposedly had the process streamlined, and it was just, sliced bread and butter, kind of thing.
Yeah, I just don't want verbal, I want something in writing. You get too much he said, she said, that's baloney.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Other projects that I have going, we're preparing to schedule the dedicated fiber installation between the jail and the public safety building. That was a large budgeted item of 21.5. So continuing to work with CenturyLink on getting our backup connection, internet connection going, and what other possible uses there may be for that. If we can use it for load balancing to help at any other times throughout the day or the weeks or the months. Also looking at possibly doing a PRI over SIP, which would possibly ease our transition into bringing, say, another office onto the phone systems. So right now, all we're looking at it, though, is for the backup internet connection and the load balancing we should be able to do with our firewall. So over the past couple months, I've been able to attend advanced threat prevention for our firewall, or from our firewall manufacturer, as well as antivirus changes and enhancements with their newer versions. Those webinars, we're working to try to implement some of those features to help raise the level of protection that we have on our endpoints. I've done a demo for software that we're looking at as part of one of the projects this year, adding virtualization monitoring that will monitor both our hosts and our virtual machines so that we can right-size both hosts, machines, detect problems before they become a problem, so forth, so on. I hope to pick a solution yet this week. And as part of the election cybersecurity, we're reminded about the SAN, or what the state offers for free, SAN Securing the Human training, which is just something that they update. I think it's every year. For our users, we have provided all of our county email addresses and have sent out notifications to users that will be coming, and it's recommended that they take this training. They're small videos. I don't know if there's 24 of them in total, but they're usually about 5 minutes or less, and it just gives them some good ideas of how to better protect themselves at home, at work, their family, so forth, so on.
Phil, in the cybersecurity vein, we've all heard so much about hacking and meddling in elections and everything like that. Anything that the state or any other government agency puts out with regard to whether or not we need to be worried about something like that with the elections coming up, our own systems, and whether they can be compromised, and Just
The-
anything you have in that vein.
The cybersecurity conference was hosted by the state, but it included Department of Homeland Security and the state, its OCIO, Office of the Chief Information Officer, I don't know, something to that effect. And so we are already taking advantage of the free resources that they have available as much as we've been able to. The SANS training is something that we're just bringing into the loop. We had done this a few years ago. We're
Is that
bringing
just
that back.
like videos telling people
Not to what?
not to do dumb stuff?
I guess if you really want to simplify it,
Yeah.
yes. But it's going to give them examples. It's going to do some things that could build on, say, the know before phishing tests, the training that is also available through that.
And do we have any indication if there has been any attempts to compromise our systems in the past?
No, I do have firewall reports that shows that we're blocking items and so forth. We use another service beyond our firewall that allows for filtering of our traffic above and beyond, that they have a wider breadth that they can block traffic before it gets to us.
So what I'm hearing is what I'm hearing you say is we're keeping our eyes open, but we don't think there's really any.
So far, we do not believe that, but anymore, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of when you notice it or when you can detect it. So I am looking into some free, possibly paid testing so to make sure that we are in a good position.
Sure, great.
So
Thank
we
you.
are doing that. I just had a call this morning with MSIAC that is in between the state and the federal DHS offices. They're a not-for-profit or whatever, that we're going to look at some of the resources that they have to offer as well. So they will also provide security, assessment, training, so forth, so on. And some of those will be paid services, but they're not, not a profit. It's just to cover the resources. The other thing that we're still working on is getting end user training set up for the operating system, Microsoft Office, others, say Adobe products. So far, we've only had about 20 users that are interested in that, but I'm still working to try to get some interest in that, because I feel that our users will benefit, especially as we're getting closer to everybody being on Windows 10. And then I had contacted Jeff, and he recommended to look into the Blanchard training system. So I have signed up for an online leadership management training through them. So I got the credentials last week. I will start that here in the near future. And that's pretty much everything I had on my list for kind of catching up to what's been going on.
Okay.
So,
Very
do you have
good.
any questions, concerns?
Just off the cuff one here, Bill, I don't remember. We talked about performance monitoring. Did we put anything in place? So do we have understand what kind of response time our end users are getting, or no, or?
We have networked performance monitoring,
Okay.
but it is the basic level of that. We can monitor up to 250 what they call nodes, but each node, say a switch, may count as several nodes. And so you don't necessarily want to monitor every port on the switch. You may just want to know the global health of the switch. So, if you have a 48 port switch, you're at least 48 nodes down. So, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but we probably have at least 10 switches. So that would exceed the license. We want to monitor our health of our hosts and health of our internet connection and so forth. But we do have some of that in place. To start adding nodes to that becomes kind of expensive.
Do we track any kind of an uptime percentage on that or anything?
We do. We can run reports on request. But yes, we do have that, and we do monitor that.
Good.
So,
That's it, thanks.
okay. Anyone else? No?
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill?
Up next, items with County Engineer Keith White. Morning, Keith.
Good morning.
First is discussion and possible action to accept a bid for L-M18-2 -73-70 seal coat on various locations throughout the county.
Yeah, we took some bids on maintenance projects. This is the first one, which is seal coating. We only had one bidder, which was Pelling. I guess we recommend.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Jeff, second by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. B is discussion and possible action to accept a bid for L-M18-5-73-70 reclamation and seal coat at various locations throughout the county.
Yeah, and there's two spots, the Steel Mill Road, Moscow to Wilton, and then Underwood just south of Durant
Sure.
that are being reclaimed, and get a seal coat on those.
I guess I was kind of surprised we had two different entities, similar cost, similar work, other than the one is reclamation.
Yeah,
But-
they're both, and this one's Manats, they're both Manats companies. Go back a decade, I mean, one or the other of these gets our
Sure,
work
very
every
familiar.
time. Pelling, I mean, Manats told us Pelling's actually their sub for the seal coat.
Sure.
But we recommend this, our reclamation prices are really good.
I'll move to approve.
Yeah, second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. C, discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits.
We have one today from Eastern Iowa Light and Power of Wilton, Iowa. And they basically are wanting to cross our road, 150th Street, with their 7,200 volt primary, basically at the neighborhood of 3433 150th. Then they're gonna take a lesser overhead out of service. That's what they have.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Got a motion by Bob. Second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Projects update.
Not much has changed. Our pavement markings, we haven't heard back from Vogel on when they might attempt to come. The Iron City precast box, again, Iowa Bridge and Culvert said they'd probably come in September. Subdrains we just awarded last week, so we don't have contracts back on that yet. And the two we just awarded today. Things that are in the works, we're still working on the G28 231st reconstruction. Be talking with Bridgestone about right away, so we'll see if we hit any snags there. And then the Iron City project up by 130th, where we're eliminating the structure and going around, we're working on that. Bridge 160, which is up west of West Liberty, we've got right away purchased on the south side, and then the other side. And nothing unique about this, but just to tell you, lots of times you have maybe one person present here and maybe one in California and maybe one in a care facility in Florida. So it does take a lot of effort sometimes to get this bought. And we haven't had to do this yet, but someday, somebody may have to get on a plane and go to Florida to get it. So just,
It's Hawaii, I'll volunteer.
okay. These folks appear to be
Agrees volunteering already.
I see.
cooperative, and but you're just getting a lot more of that, of absentee landowners and land in trusts, and getting all the people tracked down is a challenge. And then we're working, I think I mentioned last week, but on some slide repairs on G14 and F70. That's kind of happened after all that rain, so that kind of jumped up on us. And I'd mentioned the plans for a number of thin asphalt overlays are sent out for a maintenance letting August 1. We'll be coming back with that. Hopefully we see more than one bid. That's tough on the asphalt side to get. When one company owns them all, it's tough to get more than one bid. I think the last time, we did get more than one, somebody from out of state was looking for some work and came in, but that's it on projects. Questions?
No? Anything else then, Keith?
I don't have anything in the other, unless you have things for me.
Okay, very good.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you so much. Number 7, items with Planning and Zoning Administrator Eric Furness. Morning, Eric. First is review special use permits granted by the Muscatine County Board of Adjustment on July 13, 2018.
Okay, yep. 3 pretty simple special use permits were granted on Friday. 2 of them are just natural gas regulator riser stations down in the Fruitland area that are part of that a new gas main that they're putting through that works its way down towards Monsanto. These are just those simple small sites you see off the inside the ditch usually, where the regulator comes up and back down underground. So those 2 were unanimously approved. Third one was a new cell phone tower off of Elder Avenue out by Elder Ridge Addition. That one was approved as well. That one had been tabled a month. There were some issues with the proposed entrance. The company had neglected to check ahead of time with secondary roads, and I pointed out the entrance might be an issue, and so it was tabled. They've worked through that with the secondary roads and moved their entrance to a safer location that's to the satisfaction of the county to access that tower site. So those were 3 special use permits. They're all fairly typical special use.
Is that cell tower, is that north of 22 on Elder, or is it south?
No, it'd be north.
It's north, okay.
Yeah.
I know where you're at.
Right by Elder Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right by the one entrance there to Elder Ridge. It's just
Very good.
Yep. I think that's all I have.
That's all you have? Very good. Thank you, Eric. Thanks, sir. Number 8, discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the July 9, 2018 regular meeting.
So, second?
Motion by Matt, second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Bob, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Nothing? Nathan?
Did not.
I had nothing. Jeff?
Nothing.
Matt?
Nothing.
Committee reports. Matt?
No, sir.
Jeff?
I had on Monday, whatever, the 9th, I had the Magic Board meeting. And on the 10th, I had the Transportation Planning Policy Committee, where we adopted our transportation plan. I will say that, a comment on that, that's our long-term transportation plan. So one of the big controversial issue that came up this year was you remember what we talked about, the state had recommended the DOT that we look at the swap dollars. Every MPO and policy group in the state except Johnson County has elected to put swap dollars as a part of their plan. Now, accepting swap dollars doesn't mean that we can't still run federal projects and we have to swap them. We can make that decision locally rather than somewhere else. And the only objections we heard, there were a couple of gentlemen, one out of Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, Contractors Association or a labor organization, and the other was out of the Quad Cities operating engineers. I think their business manager came and spoke. Not obviously, they weren't in support. They felt it was a runaround of Davis-Bacon wages. I think we had a pretty frank discussion with the commission members, and everyone was supportive, and that it's our decision and our group's decision whether we swap the dollars or not. And so that was put into our policy so that the technical committee can look at every project by its merits and decide whether they want to use those swap dollars. And for those that haven't been really aware of that, by removing some of the federal requirements in these, and it's not just everybody's opinion is it's all this about Davis-Bacon wages, which that could not be farther from the truth. Actually, we don't even use Davis-Bacon wages in a lot of areas. They negotiate something different. Okay, so that's kind of a scam anyway. Really, it's about other reporting requirements, and what most people don't understand is small counties like Muscatine County and others don't always have the staff and experts to do all the paperwork required, and it really puts a burden on our county engineers and kind of hamstrings them as to what they can do. And it's a federal best practice to do this, so this isn't something that nobody's doing. And I think the number was 20% more. Our funds will go 20% further locally. So that's a for all the taxpayers in the county. I think that's a great thing, and so the policy committee, I was pretty happy that they went ahead and recommended that. So,
And Jeff, if I understand correctly, even if it were solely about Davis-Bacon, there's nothing in a swap that prevents an entity from paying Davis-Bacon.
absolutely, we have the right to set whatever we want. The local. If I want to release, if we're going to contract ourselves and we decide we want to enforce Davis-Bacon, we can set that as a restriction of the bid,
Sure.
independent of using a federal policy.
That's per job.
It's per job. It's all a local decision. So that's what I like. I like the local control aspect of it. I like that we don't have somebody in DC telling us what we need to do, what's right for Muscatine County. And, the part of the issue was even they got into this big time up on the 74 bridge project, and I don't know if you guys heard a lot of this. This where it became, because what happened was the Iowa DOT let the work, and they had a contractor, I think from Illinois, that hauling the muck out or something. Well, he billed Illinois Davis-Bacon wages. Well, they were $1 an hour different than the Iowa and Iowa said, no, it was our project, we're paying Davis-Bacon, Iowa. And so there was a difference there. So there's even confusion in what's right there. So, I think a bid is a bid, put out the bid, and that's what you pay, and we'll go on with life.
And I think it'd be irresponsible of us to have to go to tell some taxpayer in the county, hey, you're not getting your road or bridge because somebody in DC or somebody outside the county wanted some other consideration.
Right. So I was I think we had a couple of board members that were probably not really on board. They were probably more towards the the Davis-Bacon, but as I explained to them, is one, you still have local control. So if you as a municipality just want to do it, you can do it all day long. It's more of a local control issue for me. We don't have the feds telling us how to run our business, our county engineer and our technical committees, and the Region 9 Transportation are the ones that will be making the decision, and our policy committee will be making those decisions. So it was a good deal, and I mentioned that Member Sauer was also at that meeting. He represents on the Riverbend Transit on that board, so he was a great asset there.
And I just want to mention there, Jeff, that there were several people that were somewhat a little hesitant possibly, but it after the discussion, it ended up being a unanimous vote. So
Once you explain the facts, the more details,
everybody was on board.
give them more options.
Yeah.
From handle their business.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So, is that everything, Jeff?
Yep.
Okay. I also attended the Region 9 Transportation as well, and then on Thursday the 12th, had a fair board meeting, and they're getting all geared up for the fair this week. Starts on Wednesday, July 18th, and this particular year the weather is certainly looking much more favorable, as the forecast is to get rid of some of this humidity in the air. So I would just like to invite all the public to come out to the fair and view all the continuing positive impacts that have been made throughout the grounds, and lots of projects in the works moving forward as well. And
it's true you'll be singing on the final night of the fair?
that's still up in the air a little bit. They may have a fill in, but we'll have to check on that.
Yeah, be sure to avoid it if you are.
But I just invite everybody to come out and support the fair and see what's see the acts that they have out there. Wednesday night, the 18th, they've got a new event that they brought in, and it's Impact Pro Wrestling. So I don't know if there's.
Let's see, we got a wrestling fan in the front row here, Zach. All right, we'll expect to see you up there.
Thursday they got a dirt bike performance. Friday night they've got a tractor pulling event, and they always seem to have a really nice turnout. Have some great machines on the tractor pull events. Saturday, Adam Sanders concert, 7 o'clock, and on Sunday, demo derby at 11, trailer races at 3. Always a lot of crash and burn and excitement with those. So hopefully we have good weather and folks get out and enjoy it. That's all I had. Any committee reports from you, Nathan?
Not for last week. It's a quiet week.
Okay. Bob? Nope. Nothing. Okay. With that, we'll move forward to receive information from county employees. Do we have any county employee that needs to keep?
If I could, I'd like to comment on SWAP also for just a moment.
Perfect.
The amount of federal dollars subject to Davis-Bacon doesn't change. That burden is just no longer down on little counties, the little cities. The state will do it, as they are doing it, on their multi-million and hundreds of millions of dollars projects, and we will have numbers not subject to those restrictions. We also, at times, have smaller contractors that it's, that burden is then off them. And frankly, I'll tell you, the way we have programmed federal dollars for years, for decades, is we try and avoid small projects and all the extra paperwork that brings. And now that's not a concern. So we might now do a smaller bridge with these swapped dollars that wouldn't have had a chance otherwise. So I think it's a really great thing. I'm glad that our policy committee supported that. The way we manage our projects doesn't change, but there's, again, a lot of paperwork involved. If it's a federal project, there's always two DOT people. Iowa DOT people show up to audit they don't have to come anymore. That saves the state some burden too. So overall, it should amount to more construction out there on the ground. And again, the same amount of dollars subject to Davis-Bacon going out on larger contracts.
Keith, just to clarify for my own understanding, let's say there's $5 million, just a number I made up, coming into Iowa from the federal, and swapping is done, so the state will give out $5 million, take that federal, and that $5 million still gets spent Davis-Bacon.
Yes.
So the amount of total money spent on Davis-Bacon wages isn't going to go down.
Unchanged.
Okay, great.
Unchanged. And it is in the hundreds of millions.
Right.
And it's just the state, those will all be state DOT projects, and they're giving us primary road use tax, state dollars back, dollar for dollar, which is really fair.
Yeah.
There were people willing to swap for less than dollar for dollar, just to get rid of a lot of burden. So it's really a great thing, and I'm not sure anybody ever anticipated. It doesn't apply to every single dollar. I think trails dollars are still subject to that, but nobody ever thought like the bridge monies we'd swap out. I mean, this bridge project I report on there, you know, that's a swap project. And if anybody has any concerns, all the other type of federal regulations on protecting wetlands and protecting endangered species and wildlife, and those things still all apply. Those are still laws, and we still follow those. It just gets, there are a few things other than Davis-Bacon, but it gets rid of some burden, paperwork
It's a
burden.
simplification.
Yeah.
And what
It
it
is.
really does is it allows, I think that your local contractors, you know, if you guys, everybody that sits here sees a lot of our road projects, you have these mega contractors that go all over.
Right.
And I think your smaller local contractors will now be able to compete for more of this work locally, which I think is a positive for our local economy as well, because they employ our friends and neighbors as well, and that's all great.
Yep, they live here, they pay taxes
They
here.
live here, they pay taxes here, they work here,
Yep.
instead of bringing people in from wherever to do our work.
That's all I had.
Very good,
Very
Keith.
good. Thank you, Keith. Number 12, items with the administration office. First is discussion and possible action to set a public hearing on proposed plans and specifications, form a contract, and cost estimate for the Muscatine County Courthouse remodel project for Monday, August 6, 2018 at 9 a.m.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Let's see here. B is review budget to actual FY18 beginning fund balances. Morning, Sherry.
Good morning. As you can see by the document you got in your packet, we ended up in all of our main operating funds with more dollars than we had expected.
Well, good job to all department heads and staff
Those,
for
yes, that is
maintaining.
budgeted dollars that were unspent, that is revenues that were
Might have
departments
exceeded.
overperformed. Yes, yes.
healthy economy.
If you look down below, what we typically do is any dollars in the general basic fund over our 25-30%, we've been setting those dollars aside for other purposes. So down at the bottom of this sheet, what my proposal is, and that's certainly up for discussion. We had budgeted in this fiscal year to move $750,000 from our debt repayment fund into capital projects to fund the courthouse renovation. With the extra dollars in general basic, I'm suggesting we don't do that. We leave the debt repayment fund as it is and move the $750 from general basic, and not move any additional dollars into debt repayment fund. That would give us a balance of $1,425,000 in our building maintenance and repair fund, or a building fund.
And we still, if I go back, Sherry, that would still leave our debt repayment fund. We have our 22 call covered already.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
The 2016B, which is the jail, that call date is in 2023. Those payments are made with federal prisoner dollars, so
Right.
I don't know that there would be any good reason for us to pay that on the call date, but we certainly, after we get some of our other projects done, that could be our goal to do, but there's no great benefit. You know, the interest rates are down low
But we
enough.
got the A, we can meet the call date.
Got the
It's a
A.
decision the future boards can make.
Yes, we've got the call date and almost enough to cover if we would, you know, if for some reason we lost federal prisoner dollars, to make a bond payment until we could tax for that. So I think we're in pretty good shape as far as our debt repayment fund.
On that debt repayment fund now, so are we collecting interest on that?
Yes.
And if so, what's the rate?
You'd have to ask Amy what the rates are, but this money is all setting with all of our other money. I know.
Well, it's
I
pretty
know-
good, because when she
It's
came back the
increased.
last time, the rates
Yes.
went up quite a bit.
Yes, it's increased. Now, all of these are like separate checkbooks in our big bank account. You know,
Okay.
So, yes, we are
And
collecting
Sherry,
interest.
now refresh what you said there. So the surplus dollars out of, if the sheriff has surplus dollars from federal inmates, we're taking those specific dollars and putting them and paying down that debt? Am I seeing that, or is that, am I?
We can't pay ahead.
We are taking, instead of specifying the additional general basic dollars, because those federal prisoner dollars go into, well,
They go into the general basic
the
today.
first go into debt service to pay the bond payment. Once that's paid, and this year it looks like probably by the 1st of September, we're gonna have that covered, then the dollars start going in the general fund.
Okay,
So anything over our 25-30% in the general fund, we're moving. It's not just federal dollars. We're not singling those out. We're just taking pieces of money and moving them into the other funds.
all right.
Yeah. And because this fiscal year, we're not taking 750 out of the debt repayment fund to do a
It's
project.
like an additional bond payment.
Yes, yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Then also, transferring 750,000 from general basic to capital projects fund to help fund the courtroom and other projects.
I'm not in the bonds.
And 250,000 from general basic to fund conservation projects.
Yeah.
That, I mean, and that's up for discussion. But what I have been hearing from this board is that you support the former care facility property and Deep Lakes Park, and in order to do those
They're
projects.
expecting the money, so
Well, I
I can tell you that.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that, because we have transferred last fiscal year 250,000 in our capital projects fund. It's not going to the conservation reserve fund. It's sitting in our capital projects fund, as with this. So if we had some dire emergency, that money could be pulled back out and used for a different purpose if we needed to. You move it by resolution in, you can move it by resolution out if you would need to. But I think this would allow them to when I talked to Kurt about it, maybe do some paving into their into the new cabins that would
There's a lot of
certainly
work
be an
planned.
upgrade. There's a lot of work planned, and it's not cheap, so, you know, any of our support helps them with future grant funding too. You know, a lot of grants, they want to see local support for a project. So these are items that if we're in agreement, we'll do by resolution probably next week, but I wanted to have some discussion about what are we thinking.
Excellent way to do it.
Sherry, I've got two questions. Number one, could you help me understand where those percentages come from? I'm trying, for the life of me, I can't figure it out.
Up above, the
Yeah.
5 million, that is 49% of our expenditure amount, which you're not seeing on here.
That's why.
Yes,
Got it.
yes.
Okay. The other
Yes.
question I have is only tangentially related. Later today, we're having the mental health region meeting. And I see for that Clinton has submitted a request in light of they did a zero for their mental health budget, as we did. They are now, I think, submitting a request for something like $1.8 million to draw down from the region. I see that, you know, our mental health, and their justification was that their balance is now at $503,000. Obviously, our budgets aren't exactly like theirs, but I see ours is even lower than that. Do we anticipate having to very soon file a request to draw down funds from the region?
I think we will have to file a request. I don't know that we're gonna have to do it really soon.
Okay.
Our fund balance in mental health is 67% of expenditures at that $1.13 million, so
It's what, 60%?
67.
What did we levy this year and what did we spend this year? Mental health.
In the current year, beginning July 1, we levied zero.
Yeah, that's for next year dollars, right? Or was that last?
That's for the current year that we're
Yeah.
in right now.
Okay.
That began
We
July 1.
levied zero.
We levied zero.
We spent 1.1.
roughly, yeah.
Yeah, so we probably
how
did
does-
better than we thought we would
Okay,
have
so we're
been.
not seeing our fund balance on this side.
Yes,
Yeah.
the 1.1 is our fund balance.
Fund balance,
So
yeah.
depending on what happens,
Okay, I'm sorry. I was
with
comparing
ending
our
up
numbers.
over what we expected, we may not
So we
have
may
to
have
make a
about a year's
request.
worth of cash there.
Right, right.
Okay.
But you want to end up at the end of the year with 25%. So if, my guess is we may have to request from the region some money so we don't spend ours down to zero, because the last I talked to David Farmer about it, we could do that. We don't have to go to zero before we make a request. So my guess is closer to the end of the fiscal year.
If we can do that within the framework of how they have it set up, I want to do it,
Well, that
because,
was- yeah, that was the whole point.
because there'll be a day that'll go bye-bye.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
just wanted
agree.
us to get a request in sooner rather than
Sure.
after.
Get
the
it while
money's
you
Sure.
can get it.
And that's a conversation, with some of the changes that have been made. Kathy needs to provide me with a little bit of information too, so we can formulate a plan on what's the best way to do this.
And just
Because we
so the
certainly don't
public-
want to set back and let the region fund balance be drawn down and then we get caught
Right.
later short.
And so the
So-
public realizes that it doesn't, because it might sound a little greedy, they milked us really bad. And now we gotta try to claw that back. The state claws, well, we need to claw back what they took from us.
Yeah,
It would
we
be,
talked
it
about
would
it.
be our dollars that we would be getting back.
Exactly.
Yes.
We talked about it.
We need to get our
few
taxpayer
months
dollars
ago.
back into the town.
Yeah,
Yeah, when
but-
we were levying, when
We were
talking
sending
about-
roughly $1 million a year for a while to the region and to Scott County, and that was the part of the decision this year, as other counties did as well. To now that there was a large fund balance that was having to get spent down, we decided, hey, rather than pumping more money that's going to have to just be spent on something, why not actually save our taxpayers something? So that's what we've done. Clinton, I think, was in a little more dire situation than us and is having to draw down the money that they've basically put on deposit with the region sooner than we are. But I'm just making sure that we'll do it too before all those funds are exhausted.
Absolutely.
Especially since the region just approved, over my objection, I think $2 million in one-time funding requests, when we've just gotten saddled with a bunch of new requirements and no new funding to
That's
handle it.
just insane when you had if you think about the insanity of this whole thing is, this all started because mental health was underfunded statewide for the services required. So then they regionalized to try to save money, and then because they didn't think through how to shuffle the shells and how this would, they didn't go through and say, everybody's paying same per capita and just deal with it. Now they've created this other problem where you're putting in one-time funding expense requests, and it's not on the core services. That makes zero sense. And we still have people that can't get core services in certain counties because of funding.
I agree. To the credit of our region, I will say that I believe the only one-times that they approved were for Core and Core Plus services.
Okay.
And Core Plus is now largely Core.
Yeah.
But the fact is that the legislators set up a regime where we had to draw down this large balance. And then, as we were in the process of figuring out how we were going to do that, they changed the law saying we don't have to draw down this large balance, but instead you have to fund a whole lot more things and you don't get any more funding to do it. And the crazy thing is, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, so I may sound a bit like a broken record, this isn't state money. This is money that this is a cap that the state puts on the amount counties can levy from their own taxpayers. So it's completely against local control. It's a completely an unfundable mandate, which really grinds my gears.
Yeah, stealing.
Yep.
Coming down off my soapbox now.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
So are you gonna then, I like the proposals. I think they're well thought out and good job as always, Sherry.
Thank you.
So
We'll
are
do
you gonna put that
resolution- we'll
on
do-
for resolutions at the next meeting
Yep.
for action?
Yep,
Great.
and we'll actually do the transfers. So, but all in all, we ended up in better financial condition than we budgeted for, but we're pretty conservative in our budgeting, so,
Budget
and good job.
conservatively, act aggressively.
Yes,
Better a
yes.
good surprise than a bad one.
Yep.
Promise over deliver.
And like you said, credit to our departments for underspending their budgets when they can and overperforming on revenues, so.
Yep,
Okay.
very good.
Okay,
All right,
all right.
thank you, Craig. And if there's nothing else to come in front of the board, meeting adjourned.
Makes it a lot easier to approve a budget for a department when they underspend. So Sherry, the